what do we want to know and what can we get there. And our group member have me, Biên Sĩ Nát, Rennie, Lục Kim Chan Bo Mỹ, and Yusra Davin, and then Sun Ho. And next slide, please. Content that we're going to talk today. First, the research plan, and then the replacement of theory in the research process. To Fireball, research question must meet with two bars. So first, it's the question must be researchable, and the second, the question must be interesting to both researcher and to others. So the question must be researchable. So by researchable, it means that Fireball means that the question must be answerable by using current scientific methods and empirical data. And you might want to pose a questions about gender distributions of heaven, but it would not survive Fireball first standard since no data collection is possible. And so it in that point, it means that we need to have a purpose before searching for something, like for the example about the gender distributions of heaven. So the second, it must be interesting to both the researcher and to others. And so if a research question does not satisfy both criteria, maybe you should select another question. As it turns out, this standard is more demanding one, like real work. Real work must be done to show that a question is interesting enough to be provided the green light for research. And in the interesting of posing an interesting question, researcher must pay attention to a lot of issues. And so the next point is an interesting question might be one that employs a new strategy for new measures for addressing an old question. And also an interesting question might be one that addresses a gap in the research literature, or it's reproduced new findings. And so as you can see, there is work to be done to convince skeptics that any new research is needed, and it is the researcher's job to make the case. So skeptics here mean that those people who always doubt. And as Fireball put it in, the researcher must try to keep a surprise element in the research process, like by putting a new twist on an old problem or finding a new answer to an old question. So we move to the second point of like the second step of the research plan. Next slide, please. So the second step of the research plan is reviewing the literature. So literature review is the most important step in the research because as we can see in the first point, literature reviews give students a chance to see others, to see how others tackle similar questions or issues. Like it means that you brief the research question by finding main point or main purposes. So as a student, it gives a chance to see how other classmates tackle their issue, or so if it is similar to ours, we still have time to select other issue. And for the next point, it's reviewing the literature. Also allow one to see how successful others have been in finding answer to their question. So in this point, it means that other people easy to find answer to their question in our research by just looking at the literature review. And the next point, it helps with the clarification or refinement of research question and issues. So um, because those are new to the research process frequently lack the degree of focus that are required for a quality projects, and they often start with like overly broad research topic. Like for instance, someone might have a very general interest in eating disorders or in technology, and so if they start a literature search using either one of these terms. However, they will be overwhelmed by information, and they quickly realize that they need to specify their interest. Like it is too broad to make it the topic. And also this there is then a very practical side to starting the literature review as early as possible. Like as you can see in the slide, start the literature review as early as possible. And it means that there will be many false start in the research process. So better start it as early as possible because we can have time to think and also think and rethink. Or maybe we can change after a quick scroll researching on the internet or from other documents. And also a good literature review can be time saver. The idea behind conducting a literature review is to learn something, and knowing how others have engaged with the theoretical framing of an issue, as well as the many design decisions, sampling decisions, measurement options, analysis strategies, afford the reviewer a wealth of potentially useful information. Like if we start early, we have time to learn and knowing the process of the research. So it will be the time saver. And so so next slide, please. So here the third step of the research plan. It is the case and the place for theory. So Fireball advises that the question must have a theoretical connection for it to be interesting. And theory can be brought as a series of reasonable um, propositions about some social or natural phenomenon, and pro propositions that can be tested or assessed against empirical evidence. And the next point is theoretical research is an exercise in futility. Futility here means that uselessness. So according to the book, it says that a theoretical research is an exercise in uselessness because, for example, like counting the grains of sand on the beach can be tangible empirical grounded work, but it is a meaningless exercise without a theoretical purpose for the counting. Like we need purpose before we research or before we do something. According to a sociologist whose name Robert Morton made a case that uh, middle range theory. So middle range theory is the appropriate goal for science. It's like science should be oriented to both the theoretical and periodical realms. So if the periodical evidence repeatedly confirm our theoretical ideas, we are in a good position to start trusting the believing our theory to be correct. Like it means that it's in the middle. Range theory, it's in the middle between periodical evidence and also theoretical ideas. So this is the end of my point, and our teammate will continue from my part. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm going to talk about the placement of theory in the research process. So in this point, it aims to tell us where the theory will be placed in the research process, and so the theory can be used as a starting point or the end point of the data collection. So we can see here, like in the first session, we have learned about this already. For deductive research, it started from the theory to the use hypothesis. So hypothesis here means that a statement that is supposed in order to draw a conclusion. And next, we collect data to test hypothesis, and at the end, we accept, revise, or reject the theory. And in contrast, for inductive research, it studied from the data, and it's the formulating theory from empirical generalization. So empirical generalization here means that the generalization based on or draw from observed pattern in the data. And the, um, the data here in the inductive, it refers to the empirical data. And empirical data is the data that based on the experience. So next we move to the levels of theory guiding or resulting from research. And here the level of the theory divided to three, which are macro theory, micro theory, and meso theory. So macro theory is very broad explanation of large scale social processes in or institution. In macro theory, it is interesting in explaining broad trends like unemployment or the productivity rate of an entire society's economy. And they also consider something like how changes in food production impact the health of a nation. For micro theory, it's, uh, it's, it's the explanation of social processes that focus on behavior of small group or person-to-person interaction, and they focus on the smaller slices of social reality. And it also concerned with the specific behavior of individual consumer or businesses. Um, Next one is meso theory. It's the explanatory framework that focuses on mid-sized group or levels of interaction that occur between the macro and micro level. So in meso theory, they shoot for the best of the world, of the both world, and they trying to um, merge between the macro and micro level analysis. And in meso theory, it analyzes both economic and sociological interests, such as focus on the effect of labor union on corporate decision making in a specific industry. And it also aligns with group or formal organization. Um, this one is the levels and paradigms. So here paradigms means that the theoretical framework that offer how the social world operate in a broad view. And for paradigm, it can influence two, like first one is influence question of interest. In here, it can influence by way of the abstract concept or specific variable that can bring into research. And the paradigms will highlight in different concepts, such as the concept that the further understanding of the census, concept that fit consensus, and concept that will help constructing reality. And for the next one is the influence data collecting techniques. Here, for example, micro focus on interpersonal exchange and the construction of meaning that align with um, qualitative data collection techniques that will help facilitate us to know about the meaning of the data that we collect. For the next point is more planning and strategizing, considering question and timing. Um, for a good research, it needs to plan beyond theory. However, theory can set the direction for a research project, but more specific strategizing is needed. So in here, to research, you might have a good theory, but anyway, you have to, it still needs to be more strategic planning to execute this specific project. And put simply, we can say that, for example, if a builder need to build something, they have to focus on the needed of components or the parts, or can be able to execute the plan that they have designed in order to achieve the desired end. And also, a good planning must attend to exact questions like, for example, are we interested in documenting change, or are we interested in seeing if certain variables are merely associated, and so on. And this 3 points mainly focus on the relationship between the research and the theory, and how important is the theory and its accessory in the research. And that's it for my part. That move to my uh,
Hello, teacher. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, yes.
Now let's move on to my point. It's about what is the question and the casual vs the non-casual question. The first one is the casual question. When we do the research, we mainly focus on the casual question. And why? Because the casual question, they have the one strategy with which call experimental. It is the best option to find the answer. And if it can contribute method observation to find the impact on the outcome. Also can control the introduce and the maintain over the research process. We can see in the example I get from the book, they talk about the example of 2 electronic cigarettes have smoker quit. Like we can see in this example, we can see the connection between the electronic cigarette and the smoker. And like another example, they ask, does drinking red wine can give benefit to the health or the health problem? And we can see the connection in this example is between the red wine and the health. It gives positive or the negative to the health. And let's move on to the next slide. In this experimental, in the classic experimental, it's divided into two major. The first one is the experimental group, which affect the independent variable. And another measure is the control group, which not receive the independent variable. Even though the experimental is the best option to find the reasonable outcomes, but not all the researchers use the experimental in the research. Let's move on to the next slide. Another one is the non-casual question. this non-causal question. Like I mentioned before, that not all the researchers use the causal question, so they can take as the social research. They can use the non-causal question because take as the they want to count the current population of the Facebook or on the Facebook or climate change denies because the outcome might be variable, such as they want to know about the social process. Like I can in the example I chose from the book also. It's a good example, easy to understand. It's about the topic is how terrorist organization recruit the new member. First of all, when we look to this question, we think that the researcher might want to know the process to recruit the new member in the terrorist organization, but it's not. In the reality, they just want to know the desire impact by social program and the policies. And another example, say as the program in the Europe, the campaign put cell phone down. We might think that the researcher they want to know about the process in the campaign, but it's not. They just want to ask about the social change. It means they want to know why people they have the behavior to focus on their phone and why and they want to know can people do another thing without focus on their phone only. In the non-causal question, they also have the best strategies like the causal question. It's called let's move on to the next slide. Non-experimental design. Non-experimental design is the strategy they use to analyze, exploration, or evaluation. And this non-experimental design, they divide into two major also. The first one is the cross-sectional, and another one, the second measure, is longitudinal. And if we want to know the difference between these two measures, we have to use the strategy of timing. And the next presenter will explain you about this. This is the end of the presentation. I want to give floor to the next presenter.
So, hello guys and lecturer, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so as Sun-Hua has told you guys, there is two types of non-causal research, and one of which is related to timing, and my part, I will be responsible for cross-sectional research design. So first of all, I want to ask you guys something so simple. Do you think time is important in our life?
Yes, and sure.
So yes, just like Buddha had said, so time is everything. We use time as a mechanism in order to proceed our daily life, and without time, it's far from possible to inspect and monitor our daily life, and we need to manage a specific concrete timeline that follow up with our daily basis, which is an important tool to assist us in achieving something we want to achieve. And that apply the same case with research. So timing play an important role in especially explaining the causality in analysis. For example, we take a look at something that happened in the meantime, and then we see it as a cause for something that happened later. For example, I had to go to the market and buy food so that after that I can cook it. So it is something so simple, but in research we want to take a look at time. We want to set a specific time frame in order to assist our research, in order to answer to a specific question that is relevant to our research design. So let's take a look at cross-sectional research design. Please move to the next slide, please. So cross-sectional research design is a simple way in order to capture it. It's like a Polaroid camera for your information. Um, we use Polaroid camera to capture something and some information in the meantime. So this applies the same case as cross-sectional research design. We set a specific time frame. We want to answer questions that related within that time. So it's really important to set a specific time and we know what we should do to answer the question. For example, we want to know how is the GDP in this year, what year, next year. So we have to set a specific research within that year in order to achieve the data or information after that. So it is so simple. So cross-sectional research design mainly is survey. So that survey itself can come up with, digitally or verbally. We can just go ask people in that place at that time in order to achieve or receive the information in that time period that we want to receive. So it's something so simple. So that's it. I think I want to like conclude this in the easiest way to understand. So to sum up, cross-sectional research design is simply survey that we do in a specific time in order to study or answer to the questions that we want to pursue. And it's really cross-sectional research design is really important in explaining causality, and we may find a lot of correlation in our analysis if we use this as a method in our research design. So that's it for my part. I'm giving the floor to my other teammate.
Thank you, Borme. So this part is about the longitudinal research designs. So longitudinal research is the research that collects data at two or more points in time. To put it simple, uh, it is used in pursuing an analysis of change over time, meaning that time extension. Researchers have three options to consider in this longitudinal design. First is fixed sample design, or we can call it panel design. The second is repeated cross-sectional design, or trend design. The last one is event-based design, or we call it cohort. Please move to the next slide. The the fixed sample panel design is uh, a plan that sees data collected at two or more points in time from the exact same sample. It means, for example, they collect a sample from the exact same group of people. Panel study allows researchers to track or examine change over time in the panel study, and the collection of data from this study is referred to as a wave of the study. For example, if researcher wants to know a person's view on religion, researcher might uh, need to collect data on a person's view on religious across multiple periods of time. However, there's the problem with panel design. It is called the panel mortality. Panel mortality is the loss of research participants over time from a fixed sample. Uh, while panel study produce accurate data, keeping record from panel study is really challenging for a researcher, and it's expensive. And the problem with the mobility of subjects. Subjects of study might drop from this panel study because they have accident, they passed away, or they moving from current population, or they lose interest in the study. Therefore, the problem here is that data cannot be accurate and reliable. Please move to the next slide. The second is a repeated cross-sectional design. Um, you have listened to Ball may have described her part. So this one is not quite different from her, just a little twist. Repeated cross-sectional design is a longitudinal research plan that sees data collected at two or more points in time from different samples of the same research population. It means that data collections from trend study must be drawn from the same population. For example, if researcher wants to know rural people's view on religion, researchers need to gather information from a sample of rural people in 2017, for example, and then uh, gather the same information at later point in time from another sample, but the same population in 2020. So data collected from different sample, but the same population to be clear. However, the problem with the trend study is that it allows the investigation of total level of change, but it no longer allows researchers to address change in particular individuals over time. Trend study is dependent on two conditions to be successful. The first one is researcher must make sure that each wave of the study employs what they call a representative sample of the same population. To make sense, uh, for example, a trend study of views about Crimean annexation should not sample from Crimean ethnic group at time one and the general population of Crimean Peninsula at time two. The second one to be successful is trend study depends on consistency in the measurement process. It means that researchers must be certain that the exact same measures of variables being investigated are used in each and every way of data collection in order for it to be accurate. Please move to the next slide. The last one is called event-based design or cohort to be short. Event-based design is a plan that sees data collected at multiple points in time from a specific segment of a population that shares a common interest. The definition here is clear as crystal. You can see event-based. So what it means here is that a cohort analysis is defined by a group that uh, is defined by a common event. For example, uh, they're experiencing a common life circumstances in a specified period of time. Uh, for example, like a researcher might want to study about PTSD of people who live under Khmer regime and how they may have a huge impact on their life and later development. So here, the uh, the design is about the event of a group of people that have been through a common event. So thank you. This is the end of my part. The next one will present. Thank you.
So moving on to the question about the process. Sometimes our research interests concern process like how does someone do this or that. For example, how do people fall in love or how do people cope up with long-term unemployment? And with this kind of questions, researchers often go for qualitative research plan and data collection techniques, which include the use of field research and intensive interviewing for research plans. For the field research, the researchers use field research to learn about the world from the inside, or walking a mile in their shoe. It means that by trying to learn about their research subjects from their point of view, it gives the researcher a more in-depth level of understanding from varying level of their research subjects. And for the intensive interviewings, it is often done in combination with the field research. And it is a technique that allows the researchers to understand how their research subjects, experience or conduct their life realities. And this interviewing strategy enables the researcher to learn more about their research subject, and it also allows the research subjects to take control in explaining their own roles. Moving on, next slide, please. And talking about planning to maximize the research validities, planning a research project uh, must be done with the major validity issues that is the central issue to the scientific research, which it is divided into three, including measurement validities, internal validities, and external validities. In our knowledge, we are often concerned with these three trust issues. First, in the measurement validities, uh, we want to know whether or not we can trust statement or claims of measurements, meaning that this concern versus the issue of measurement validities, and it requires us to take a closer and proper look at the steps we take in learning and documenting the reality, because it is difficult to trust a statement from only one point of view. So the researcher need to take a closer or proper look in the step that they take while they study about the research and everything. Second, in the internal validities, we want to know whether or not we can trust the statement about causal relationship. The causal relationship here, it means the cause and effect of something, of a situation. And this concern versus the issue of internal validities, which it requires us to take a closer or proper look at whether or not our basic research or the step we take in studying the research is enough to explain the causal connection of any situation. And lastly, it is about the external validities. In external validity, we want to know whether or not we can trust our finding, meaning that whether or not we can use the information we have gathered so far to use or apply in the study that has already been produced. And so it forces us to take a proper look at the issue of sampling or reputation. Next slide, please. And in conclusion, so in order to successfully conduct a research project, we should have a good planning. By having a good planning, it will help the researcher to choose which research design that is the best for them in learning the research subject or in conducting the research, which will also help them in smoothing the research process. And for the literature views, the literature reviews, it means that the literature reviews give students a chance to see how other people have approached or have like solved the similar question issue in the past. And it also provide the researcher an extremely useful head up, like they allow the researcher and provide the researcher with many factors that help the researcher in formulating a good research question, as well as allow the researcher to plan and conduct a successful research. And on top of providing the researcher many factors and plans to conduct successful research, it also give the researcher by using literature reviews, it can also be a time saver for the researcher, because using the literature reviews give the researcher more in-depth understanding, and it so that the researcher can conduct a research in a short time and with a good result, something like that. The third one is coming up with the right question and clearly specifying the research question. Coming up with the right question, it is good to come up with interesting question, because interesting questions might allow the researchers to employ a new strategy or a new measure for addressing or resolving a conflict or finding in the research. Or it can also help the researcher in addressing the old question that has already been answered. And on top of coming up with the right questions, by clearly specifying the research questions, it helps the researcher to decide which research designs they should use in conducting their research process in order for their research to go smoothly. And lastly, it is about the validity issue. The validity issue is just like the validity concern that are like an essential elements for making good decisions in order to conduct the research. And like the validity issue are comprising of three elements, which are the like measurement validities, internal validities, and external validity, which is the validity issue in which whether we can trust someone or trust a statement of something or not. And that's it for the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, group one. So we have another 20 minutes to 7, right? We 7:30 we break. So we have 20 minutes. So if you have any comment or question, clarification related to the presentation, you can raise to the team. And if the team cannot, I can contribute. Okay, so please go ahead. No, you don't have. If you don't have, I have a question. The first question is, did everyone read the chapter? Raise your hand. Even you just have a quick look, that considered as read. Okay, raise your hand. Yeah. Okay, Dom, thank you. Yeah, you just raise your hand in Zoom. No need to show me the picture. Okay, video. Yeah, so meaning few of us have read the chapter. Yeah. So please try to read it, okay? Okay, so second question is, if you don't read the chapter, then while your friend did the presentation, do you taking note from the presentation? Raise your hand again. You just simply listen, or what? Do you take note from what your friend presented? Raise your hand again. Or down? No? So if you don't take note, how do you get note to submit at the end of the course to get 10%? Okay? So
Cho bên là review the slide chưa?
you read the slide, but you don't make taking note, try to catch up, because the slide is not designed logically. Okay? So this is designed based on the chapter outline, but not based on the understanding of the chapter. So if you understand the chapter, you can make it in your own way, okay? Your own way. So, third question. Okay, you read your slide, and I guess some of you have opened the book along the way. So what are the key ideas related to the chapter? Okay. For me, I noticed 4 important elements of the chapter. How about you? Do you find any key element that you can summarize from the chapter? Okay, so you can put down your slide. It's my turn then. I take a note, and from what you present, I have 2 pages of note. Yeah, 2 pages. One part of the 4 part that I can make a point is step in research. Step in doing research, which is not mentioned in the presentation. And it is here. Hold on, let me open the chapter. Okay, so I'm sharing the screen of the chapter, and I guess you already see it now. Okay, so you missed part 1. Step in doing research. Okay? This one, okay? That is important because since we start our introductory to research course, we have not yet touched the step of doing research. And today we touch it. And by knowing the whole process, we touch it part 1, which is planning. Okay? So the first element of chapter is research step. Okay? And if you read Ranjit Kumar book, another book, you will see it is classified in different steps. And that different steps is highlighted in the course syllabus. Okay? The course syllabus, you see step 1, step 2, step 3. Okay? And I'm not going to go through exactly the same step as that book, okay? So, but the purpose, we will go there, but we try to make a little bit turn left and right around, and then we will be there, okay? Not follow exactly the same, okay? Because I introduced another different literature so that they can offer you a theoretical background related to research, okay? Yeah. Okay, so although maybe I respond to your question later, okay, but keep that if I forgot to respond to your question, okay, but let me finish with this one, okay, step in research. So Ramjeet have classified in several steps, and Ron, she does not mention in the step as Ramjeet, but she mentioned as phase. Phase means okay, phase. So based on Ron, she categorized into 5 main phases. The first one we call idea phase. Okay? Idea phase, which is starting with literature review, start with your theory. Okay? Your theory. Your idea means your theory. Okay? And then your question or hypothesis, that is your idea phase. Okay? And where to get an idea? It starts with your observation, your literature. Okay? That is the first start. Second, we call design stage. Design stage is a planning stage. When you get an idea, you develop into a planning. Okay? So planning including research question, design. Here, design. So today you learn about design. Okay? Overall design or a blueprint for collecting data, for selecting unit of analysis, for sampling, for measurement, for your plan of analysis. Okay? So today you learn how to get an idea and what criteria to make an idea interesting, and then question. And so you learn different types of question: causal question, non-causal question, question of change, question of process. Yeah. And then it linked to the design. So you have 3 design. Yeah. From the presentation, I guess you cannot distinguish the main design. Yeah. But my summary for you is, if you forget everything, when you go home, just remember 3 design. And I'm going to talk to that, okay? But let me finish the plan first, okay? Yeah. And then you have second phase is data collection. And this is an implementation your plan, execution your plan, okay? From this one onward. So the first 2 is planning. The first 3 is implementation. So data collection, pre-testing, mean testing your question, your data collection tool, if it is applicable or not, feasible or not. And then piloting, meaning do on the small sample of the population to see if it is workable or not, so that you can scaling up to the highest or larger data collection. Yeah, when it is workable, then you can plan final data collection, on a big scale of collection data. Okay. And data analysis phase, and you need to go through to the process of coding, organizing, and then coding, and then analyze, and then interpretation of your result. So with that result, you do the reporting, reporting your result, and make a communication to the public. Okay, so that is the step in doing research. Okay, and today we're looking at here. We're looking at here. And specifically the first two, and the first three is not yet. The first three. We will go into that later on the process. Okay. Okay. That part one. And the presenter missing to highlight that one. Okay. Part two. Coming up with the right question. Okay. How do you come up with the right question? Okay. So you have point number one inside point two is the two-bar criteria. Okay. Criteria. So what are the two-bar? Your research must be researchable, or in other words, it is answerable by the current scientific method and by empirical data. That is researchable, yeah, or answerable. Another criteria is it must be interesting. Interesting. So what are the points that considered as interesting? Point number one. Point it out one by one, please. Presenter. It is interesting if your research contributes to resolving conflict. Conflict here is not about violent action, but about conflicting idea or debate. Debate, the endless debate. For example, related to natural resource management, there is an ongoing debate about whether natural resource management shall be protected, closely protected, like national park. National park is closely protected by law, okay? No one can touch. In another way, they argue that the protected park shall integrate human activity in there to better manage resource. And we call it integrated natural resource management. Okay? So another debate is that, okay, the two approach is not yet enough for manage, but we should use market-based approach to manage resource, meaning monetize natural resource or as a monetary value and monetize it, okay? Market it. So three debates there related to natural resource management. So you would like to contribute to those debates by investigating your issue. Okay? Whether market-based mechanism work for natural resource management, that is your entry point. So that is debate. Okay? Another point is it is interesting if your research contribute to a new finding, okay? New finding, or refine, make it better. Knowledge. Okay. Okay. Or it is interesting if you employ the new technique or new methodology. Okay. Employ new method. Okay. It's also interesting if you extended your research to other group of population. Okay. The study have been done in US, okay, which is culturally different from Asian context. So you are interested looking at the same question, the same problem in Asian context and particularly Cambodia context. So that is extended to different population, different study area. Okay. For example, the study on dropout, why students drop out at primary school. Okay. Primary. So why not? You are interested looking at secondary or high school. So that is the meaning of extended to the new study area or population. Okay. Another point that also makes your research interesting is it contributes to the knowledge gap. Knowledge gap means you contribute to the part that you don't know. For example, this is part that you know, and this is part that you know, but there is some part that you don't know. Okay? Don't know. So if you contribute to this unknown part, that makes your research interesting. Okay? Another point that makes your research interesting is in the chapter, Ron said that keeping the surprise element. Okay? Your research must keeping the surprise element. And that can be considered as draw immediate attention. Okay. Suppose everyone is sleeping and your research wake everyone up. That makes the research interesting. Okay. For example, in 2008, Cambodia government mainly focused on its economic activity on garment export, which solely rely on external market, United States and European market. Okay? And 2008, we have a global financial crisis, which we lost a lot of market. So we have lost a lot of revenue because we solely rely on garment industry. So this lesson is like a kick for everyone to wake up and call for economic diversification. Yeah. So if your study is to awake everyone like that, it makes your research interesting. Okay? Another example is related to migration research. Okay? Most of the Cambodian scholars forgot about the issue of migration. And they mainly focus only on cross-border migration, illegal migration, human trafficking related to migration. But the internal migration is not at the attention of the scholar. Okay? So if your research awake the Cambodian scholar related to internal migration, then your research is interesting. Yeah. Okay. That is the example of the interesting part. Okay. So how do you know your research is researchable and interesting? Okay. To know this, you need number 1.2, which is literature review. Okay. And the group mentioned the importance of literature review. Okay. And the book also highlights the importance of literature review, that we can make a summary point. Okay. So what is the importance of literature review? Literature review guides us with theory. Yeah? Theory. And as you know, a good theory, meaning the concept is measurable
and easy to measure. Concept and then variable. Okay. So if you don't do the literature review, you don't come up with a good theory, meaning your theory is difficult to measure. And if it is difficult to measure, you have problem of measurement validity. And it also implies that your research is not researchable or cannot answerable. Cannot answer. So it is important to do literature review to identify a good theory so that it can guide you to do research. You can measure the concept, you can choose the right indicator, yeah, and that could help you make the criteria here is researchable or answerable. Okay? And I guess you still remember that chapter 1 and chapter 2 we learned the characteristic of science. Yeah. And you learn the way of making knowledge, and the two most reasonable ways: rational knowledge and empirical knowledge. And therefore we draw the three elements of scientific knowledge that has the theoretical part, which deriving from rational knowledge. Okay. We have empirical part, which come from empiricism. We have scientific method, which the three constitute the core pillar of science. Okay. And theoretical part is here. Yeah, it's here and it is here. Yeah. Here's the role play. Yeah. Yeah. And this one is here. So that is important of literature review. It helps guide you with theory. It also helps us see how the other approach the same problem or the similar problem. Okay? So let me finish this in 5 minutes and you can pay. Okay, see how other approach the same problem. The same problem. Okay. Literature review also helps you become an expert in your field. When you become an expert, knowledgeable in your field, you know what you want to do. You know what you want to do, and therefore you use the right language, the right terminology. The right terminology or vocabulary. The right vocabulary. And also saving time. Why saving time? Because research is replicatable. It's replication. Others have been done already how to measure the concept. So you don't need to spend time find a way to measure the concept. Just replicate. Okay? For example, the concept of self-esteem is the complicated concept and difficult to measure. And in the United States, they develop an indicator to measure self-esteem already. So you don't need to waste your time trying to find the indicator to measure, but just adopting from US, you can measure self-esteem. Okay? So do the definition. Okay? So that is time saving. Okay? And also help you see concept, yeah, already, and variable, okay, already. Yes. Any more points? Okay, so that is important of doing literature. Okay, so you will come back at 7:20. Okay, 7:20. So you can break. Okay. Okay, before you break, let me answer to Tape Odom question between Kumar and Raul. Which book is more reliable or informative? Well, the reason I pick up two, yeah, because you can make your own judgment, okay? But I find that Kumar is more practical. Practical meaning guiding you, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this, you should do that. But it's not telling you the theoretical part, what is the reason behind that, okay? For example, can you find the definition of theory in Kumar? You cannot, okay? Can you find the simply way of explaining what theory is, or what is concept, what is hypothesis there? It will be difficult to find in the Kumar book, okay? But in Rohn, she wrote in a way that simplify the key concept, key theory. Okay? For example, the design and question. She wrote in a way that is so simple, okay, that you can make summary point. Yeah, so, but Rohn does not offer the practical guide how to do it. That is the two different, okay? That is why theory, I pick up Rohn, practice, I pick up Kumar. Okay, that is my reason. Okay, so but of course you need to read two books, but it doesn't matter. Okay, the more you read, the more you know, right? So don't complain. Okay. Okay, that's my response. Okay, you can break, come back at 7:20. Yeah, enjoy your break. Okay, everyone, I'm back. We can start. Okay, everyone here? So, Dalia?
Yes.
Yeah, Dalia, you are co-host, so you will have to admit your friend, okay? In case I forgot to look at the screen. Okay, so we already learned the importance of literature review, and part 3 is linking to theory. Theory is, yeah, we have the first one is place, where the theory start, inductive or deductive, okay, that place, and then we have level of theory. Okay, level of theory, we have micro, macro, and meso. And then we have the last one, paradigm. Okay, all of that explain us, guide us to look at the issue or the problem, because theory is statement or proposition of explaining how the thing or the entity work. Okay, so it have different way. Macro related to individual, micro related to individual, macro a larger level of life, it can be state or society, meso in between group and individual or group and informal institution. Paradigm is a larger explaining the social phenomena, which can be from the specific issue ranking to the higher issue. For example, we have order, paradigm, we have what is it? The last one is symbolic, conflicting paradigm, and symbolic interactionist paradigm, which all of them guide us with concept and variable to approach the problem. Okay, so coming up the right question have 3 points to consider, ranging from criteria, literature review, theory. Okay. The third part of the chapter is the linking between the question and the design. The design simply means strategy. Strategy to achieve the answer to your question, to your research problem. Okay. So everyone, do you understand the word research problem? Nadia? Huh? Borami. Do you understand the word research problem? Not yet coming back or what?
Not really.
Okay. So research problem is not about the issue, okay? Like we have a problem of flooding, we have a problem of climate change. It's not that way. Okay? Research problem is simply meant what you want to research. Okay? Research problem is about what you want to research. That is called research problem. Okay? So your friend, for example, your friend asking you, so what is your research all about? So you say, okay, my research is about investigating the relationship between this and that. Okay? So the way you tell your friend is your research problem. Okay? So when you have a clear research problem, you can spend just 1 minute explaining the reader, and they can understand what you are doing. Okay? So that is research problem. Okay, so now let's move to question linking to the design. Actually, there are 4 main types of question linking to 3 main design. Okay. Number 1, the first question is, okay, the first question is, let's say question and then design. Okay. Make that table like that. Okay. So question number 1 we call causal question. Okay. Anybody can give me example of causal question? Để là cái bằng 2 cái này đến. Causal question, I think Guy present. I forgot his name.
Yes, teacher.
Yes, Xiang Hua. Can you give example of one causal question?
The example of the causal question is like the study about the relationship in the question, such as the example of the red picture.
So simply you have just look at the textbook. Simply take simple example like texting while driving. Okay? Is it lead to traffic accident? So that's a kind of causal question. Okay? Smoking electronic cigarette, will that lead to reducing smoking? Okay, so that's a kind of causal question. Okay, so to answer that kind of question, you need design. Number 1 we call experimental design. Okay, so what is experimental design? Looking at your textbook. Okay, the meaning of what is experimental design. Okay. The design that have 3 conditions or 3 criteria. Okay, number 1, we call experimental group. Okay, experimental group. Number 2, control group. Okay, and number 3, random assignment. Experimental group refer to the group that is exposed to an independent variable. Independent variable. What do we mean by exposed to independent variable? Anyone can explain that? Hold on, can you explain that?
Cannot.
Okay. So exposed to independent variable, example, okay? We want to conduct an experiment whether to use a nicotine substance whether it is can reduce the number of smoking or not. Okay, so we design 2 groups. One group we give them nicotine, and then see the number of their smoking daily. Okay. Another group, we don't give them nicotine. Okay, and then we see number of smoking per day. Okay. So the first group that receives nicotine, we say that experimental group because it is exposed to nicotine, which is an independent variable. You got that? Okay. So when we give them 1 dose of nicotine, 2 dose of nicotine, 3 dose of nicotine, the way we change the value from 1, 2, 3 dose like that, we call manipulation. Manipulate the independent variable. Okay, you got it? Okay, so experimental group, the group that is exposed to an independent variable. Okay, the independent variable that can be manipulated. So the question is, do all independent variables can be manipulated? Can all independent variables be manipulated? Yes or no? The answer is no. Not all independent variables can be manipulated. That is the weaknesses of experiment. Yeah. Okay. Control group, vice versa, is the group that do not expose to the independent variable. And the group do not cover the random assignment in the experimental design. Okay. So what do we mean by random assignment? Random assignment is the chance, the equal chance, randomly by chance, not by selection. Okay. By chance, the subject is the one that is being investigated. Okay. That subject have the equal chance to fall into each of the two groups above. Okay. Example, we want to measure the impact of educational program between teacher center and student center. Okay. So the two groups students have a equal chance to taking part in each of the program. Okay. So what happened is the outstanding student mostly join the first group, teacher center. Okay. In that case, the result will be biased because most of the out student is there. So you see that teacher center is more impact than the other. Okay? And that problem we call selection bias. Selection bias because you don't have random assignment. So if you have random assignment, it is to avoid selection bias. Okay. So random assignment is to avoid selection bias. Okay. Because of the experimental design is designed that way, it is claimed that it is the golden design among the other design in capturing the causal question. Okay. So remember that, okay? Experiment is the best design for capturing the causal question. So what if in the final exam I ask, okay, the same, I give an example between student center and teacher center. Okay, I ask you, what are the best design for this research effort? Okay, I give you cross-sectional design, I give you longitudinal design, I give you experimental design, I give you field research. You are going to choose one, okay? It must be experiment, okay? So that is the first causal question linking to the experimental design. How about non-causal question? Number 2, non-causal question. Okay. Non-causal question are the question of, this is question of why, this is question of what. Okay, question of what. So it is a question of exploring. Okay. Question of describing. Okay. Question of examining the association between the variable, which is called correlation. Okay. The question related to assessing the impact of the evaluation, from evaluation. Okay. That is what question. If you have that kind of question, the design is number two survey. Okay. And that called survey responding to this what question called 2.1 cross-sectional design or survey. Okay. Non-causal question, cross-sectional. Okay. So what is cross-sectional? Data collection at one point of time, one moment of time. Like taking a snapshot, like taking a photo. Okay? You take only one moment of time. Okay? So that is non-causal question is cross-sectional design. And then we have the third question, which is about question of chain. When we talk about question of chain related to over time, okay? This is single moment of time. Okay? That is different point of time. Okay? This year, I ask you, next year I ask you again, another year I ask you again, the same question. So that is different point of time, okay? So the design for this kind of question of chain, the design is 2.2, we call longitudinal design. Longitudinal design comprising 3 sub-design. Okay. Number 1, fixed sample or panel. Okay. And I ask the same people at different point of time. That is fixed sample. For example, I ask that's mấy about mấy the first year. I ask again second year, third year, fourth year, and the fifth year. What am I graduate? She is away, so I cannot ask her again. Okay? So when I lost her, we say panel mortality. Okay? Panel mortality. I cannot interview her anymore. Okay? So fixed sample have a problem of panel mortality. Okay? And because it is fixed sample, fixed to the same person. So this kind of question tracking the chain of individual. Chain. Okay? That is fixed sample. So you ask the same sample at different point of time. Okay? Number two, we call repeated cross-section, cross-sectional design. Okay? That repeated cross-sectional design tracking the chain of population or group. Chain of group or subpopulation. Subpopulation. And that not require the same sample, but make sure the sample is come from the same population. You can draw like this, okay? We have population like this. Okay, time one, you ask sample one. Okay. Time two, you can ask sample two. Time three, you can ask sample three. But sample one, sample two, sample three, make sure they come from the same population. Okay. That is repeated cross-sectional. The third one is similar to the second one. So if you understand the second one, it's quite easy to understand the third one. Okay? The third one we call even base. Even base design or okay, or cohort. Design. Okay? Repeated cross-sectional can we say another word we call trend study. Okay? How about the first one? What do we call? I forgot which one, trend. So help me checking the book. Yeah, repeated cross-sectional is called a trend study. The first one we call panel study. Okay, panel study, trend study. The third one, cohort study. Okay. So the third from the second is that the population must experience the same lie even. Okay. Experience the same lie even. For example, she graduate from the same cohort, okay? The same promotion, the same department, the same cohort, or the same social history. For example, Popo regime or baby boom regime, baby boom time. So people who come from that group, we call it cohort. Okay? So it's the same as repeated cross-sectional. Sample do not require to be the same person, but make sure they come from the same segment of population or subgroup of population that experience the same lie even. Okay? That is the key. Okay? So that is longitudinal design. The last question, question number 4, which is about question of process. Okay. Okay? Process is about how. How to do this, how to do that, how do you fall in love, something like that. Okay? So if it is the question of how, the design is, so we have number 1, number 2, number 3. The design is number 3. It's not right. Yeah, design. Number 3, we go field research. Okay. Or in other words, we call intensive interview. Okay. So when I use field research, some of you may confuse, okay, or may feel strange. What is field research? Okay. So if I say, okay, qualitative study, do you get it? Qualitative study. Yes, qualitative study. So that is the design. And the last part is about part number 4, planning to maximize the validity. So the key idea is that to maximize the validity, the first validity is measurement validity. Measurement validity is about measuring concept. So to maximize it, you think about your planning, think about your idea, is to do seriously the literature review. Okay? And choose the good theory. Okay? That could help you maximize the measurement validity. Regarding internal validity, okay, internal validity, you should consider think about the design. Okay? If you have a good design, then you can claim or analyze the causal relationship accurately. Okay? So if you loosely design, you may not get a good variable or good data for you to do the analysis. Okay? That cannot maximize the internal validity. So think about the design. Or if you think about the internal validity, think about design. The last one is if you want to maximize the external validity, think about sampling strategy or sampling procedure, okay? Or sampling method. How you choose sample out of the population, okay? Because external validity is about making conclusion out of the sample. So if you choose sample correctly, and then you have a measurement, external validity. Okay? So that is the last part of planning to maximize the validity, is to draw the attention from you that what point you should consider related to maximize each validity linking to your design, question, and theory. Okay? So that's all for the chapter. So chapter can be summarized into 4 main parts. Part 1, step in research. Part 2, how to come up with the research question, thinking about the 2 bar or the 2 criteria related to making your research interesting and searchable. Okay? And second one is about literature review that can guide you to a reasonable theory that can make your research searchable, and guide you to see concept variable that can be measurable. It can help you saving time. It can help you justify what you want to research. That is literature. And then you learn about the theory, what the theory is, the place of it in research, and the different level of theory. Okay? And theory also guide you to look at your research problem. Theory also guide you to have a clear concept, clear variable, which will help you the researchable part and empirical part. Okay? Later on, we have a type of question which is linking to the design. Okay, so 4-man type of question linking to 3-man design. The first design is experiment. The second design is survey. The third design is field research, which is qualitative research. Okay. Survey, we have cross-sectional survey. Cross-sectional survey responding to the non-causal question that have 4-man keyword: descriptive, explorative, evaluation, correlational research. Okay. That is non-causal question. And cross-sectional survey. Longitudinal survey dealing with the question of change over time, which have 3 sub-design: fixed panel or fixed sample or panel study, repeated cross-sectional or trend study, cohort-based study, or event-based study. Okay. And the question of how, and the question of about process is field research. Okay, so that's all for the chapter. So if you have question, raise. So if you don't, I assign you the assignment. Okay. Lastly, let me remind you this, because it will appear in exam. Okay, this is to recap. Here. To recap here. Wow, where is it? This one, okay? So if your research agenda related to what are the cause of, then it's experimental design. Okay? Are the 2 variables correlate? Cross-section. What are the impact of? Impact of is evaluation. So it is cross-section or longitudinal before and after. Okay. So how do individual? Question of how. Okay. Change over time. This one. It is panel or fixed sample because change individual. Okay. How do population or society change? Okay. This is group or population change. This is longitudinal or trend study. Okay. Provide a detailed description of cross-sectional. Okay. Explore cross-sectional or field research. Okay. Understanding the process, question of process. Qualitative field research or interviewing. Okay. So question linking to design. Okay. So try to understand it. It will appear in exam. 1 or 2 questions of that. Okay. So 5-minute question and answer. If no, I assign you the group assignment.
Hello, Chair. Hello. Can you hear me, Chair?
Yes, David?
On the experimental design, the control group, is it the third condition of causal model?
Yes. You have a question related to causal question, right?
The control group, is it the third condition of causal model?
Again, please. I could not hear clearly.
Like the control group of the experimental design, is it the third condition of causal model?
No, I don't get. Can you write me, please? Yes, control group, is it the third condition of causal model? No. No. the third condition for causal model is non-spuriousness. Okay, that is the condition for claiming causal relationship is another thing. Okay, another thing. So this is about the research design, the strategy for doing research. So it's different thing. Okay, got it, Ravin? Okay. So it's not about the third condition of causal model, no. Okay, not even control group, not even experimental group, not even random assignment. Okay, so the third condition for claiming, claim, okay, to claim the relationship between variable, you need three conditions. Okay, time ordering, association, and non-spurious. That is condition for claiming cause and effect. Okay, but experimental design is the design that have three way of implementation. Experimental group, the group that is exposed to independent variable. Okay. Control group, the group that do not expose to independent variable. And then we have a random assignment. Okay. It's the chance that we assign the subject to the two group above randomly, okay, by chance, not by us. Okay. So that is the different thing. Okay. Do not confuse. Got it? No doubt? Ravin? Any more?
Yes, teacher.
Yes. Any more?
Teacher, I have question relating to the how others approach the same problem in the theory point. Can you explain that again?
Again, repeat the question.
The how others approach the same problem, like in the theory point.
How the other approach the same problem. Okay. Okay. Something like this, Srina. Okay. For example, I want to see the impact of okay, study program. Okay, let's say teacher center, student center. Okay, okay, that is our objective. Okay, and then you see how the guy in Korea, he do the same thing like that. How does he do that? Okay, what are the variables that he used to measure the impact? Okay, then we see, okay, the guy in Korea do like that. The guy in US, the guy in Europe, in France, okay, he approached the same or similar question. Okay, similar, not the same question, but similar question. Okay, so he may not compare about the study program, but he compare about development program. Okay, so see, development program, study program, or poverty alleviation program. So similar way of looking at things. Yeah? That is the meaning. How we see the other approach the same problem or similar problem. Okay? យើងមើលឃើញថាតើគេ research យ៉ាងម៉េចតកតងទៅនឹងប្រធានបទស្តៀងគ្នាប្រហែលគ្នានឹងគេធ្វើម៉េច that is the meaning. Got it?
Yes, thank you, Cha.
Okay, more please. Okay, so while I'm erasing the whiteboard, you can have a question. Okay? Okay, so now come to the exercise. So the exercise is so simple. Okay, I share you my Microsoft Team. Okay. Okay. So everyone see my slide, see my screen, right? Yes. Here, the exercise. I want you to consult Ranjit Kumar from page 6278 about how to find a topic and how to ask a question and how to write an objective. Okay. So your assignment, you do in group. Okay. Discuss among your group to find a topic of your research. Okay, so that's first one, topic. 2, objective of your research. Okay. 3 is question of your research. Obviously, research question. So you prepare this, okay, 1 to 2 slides, okay, and plus a brief justification of why you decided this topic. Okay. So finding out your research problem. So you need to discuss among your team to find a consensus, okay, consensus topic among your team. Okay, so each of you can convince each other so that you can your team support your idea. Okay. So read Ranjit Kumar on that page, discuss among your team, prepare. Okay, so you have the time from now until 8:30. So use that time, discuss among your team, getting to know each other. Okay, you know your group member. Okay, your group number. So go to your group, discuss among your peer, and prepare. So next week, group 2 will present another chapter, which is chapter 5. The first session. The second session is you work, share your work of this. Okay, so once you get that, I will instruct you to write a research problem. So when you get this, I ask you to write part 1 introduction and part 2 research problem. Okay, so how to get this? Literature review. Okay, how do you search the literature review? You need to find the keyword first, keyword of your topic, guided by Ranjit Kumar here. Okay, you need to find that first. Okay, and then you have keyword. So when you get keyword, you search the keyword and you get the topic, you get the other research. Okay, so you can see how they formulate the topic, how they formulate the objective. You may have an idea, okay, what you want to investigate, and then you can write your topic here. Okay, so if you have this, next assignment, I ask you to write this. Okay, so when you have this next assignment, I ask you to write part 3 and part 4. Okay, and step on, go on. Okay, until you got a complete research proposal. Okay, so that is the strategy of this course. Okay, got it?
Dạ sir.
Okay, good. So I will make a group for you. How many group are you? in your ក្រុមប្រព័ន្ធហ្នឹងបងលោកគ្រូបានចែកឲ្យប្រហែលក្រុមផ្លេចបាត់ហើយលោកគ្រូផ្លេចបាត់ហើយច្រើន How many group are there in your class 6 group or 5 group class monitor
6 group teacher
man again please
as the previous list is 6 group
6 or 5 I forget
6 group, chair.
6 right
Yes.
okay so I break out 6 group and you know your group right so just go there okay so I let participants choose the room so work with your friend for this 20-minute left okay so when it is done when it is 8:30 and when you finish your team you can arrange the team meeting after the class okay so let's do it and I'm here to help you okay if you need me for this 10 minutes or 20 minutes just ask okay so now I already create the 6 group please go to your group okay Dalia Pep Lagu which group are you in so those who stay okay mine T Jan okay group 5 Lee Jan Spirit group 2 Yum San Wansa Yum San Nasa okay group 6 okay and Sokwisal group 2 Richard hold on Richard Satchanit group 1 Sien Rexmay Sien Virya. Sien Virya, group 1. Sukun Kanitha, group 6. Kamsai, Chai, group 3. Sombat Pitbull, group 4. Lem Ponyarot, group 6. Thida, group 4. Siet Krong, group 6. Keriya, group 6. Siang Sun Ho, group 1. Ok Dalia, group 3. Jordan, which group?
Hello, sir. Yes.
Which
Actually, yeah. Actually, I'm just a new student here because I have to repeat the course.
I don't get. You are not yet assigned to any group, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I need to update my class list, okay, for the meantime, Flo.
Yes,
So,
actually, I have started since last week, but due to was so busy and I did inform too much.
okay, hold on, then I check my class list. Stay there.
Yes, sir.
So did I inform you that you are did I assign you to any group yet?
Not yet, sir.
Okay, so I need to check my class list first. Okay. E3.1. Okay, Jordan, you are in group 4.
Okay, sir.
So I assign you to group 4.
Yep, sir. And about the attendance, you start to collect it from last week or start from this week, sir? I just want to know.
No, your voice so echo, I cannot hear. So I guess your question is about, so group 4 referring to the chapter presentation and the group research report, okay?
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.